I want to talk about going on a journey as a DJ and a music programmer, and even somebody who mixes music as a DJ. This video is not going to get mad views, and I'm totally okay with that. I'm not necessarily putting every video up so it gets several thousand hits. I'm putting videos up sometimes on content that I just want to get out there, and this is one of those videos. What got me thinking about this was a critique in my last video. I put up kind of a Halloween montage of what I had going on Saturday, where we had trick-or-treating, I had some FX out, and then I showed some footage from my Saturday night Halloween club gig. There was like a costume contest going on and stuff. And there was a shot that I showed of a very full dance floor to the Cupid Shuffle. And it was so full that it was overflowing off of the dance floor. And somebody made the comment, "Oh, here we go again. Cupid Shuffle at the club, like ... like how disappointing." So that got me thinking about this journey we go on as a music program, about some of the negative things we may think about certain songs and why we feel that way. Playing to your audience, challenging your audience, all of those things. I can only talk about my journey because I don't know what's going through everybody else's head when they do what they do. I mean, this is your art form. You do it your way. For me, I remember being at the skating rink just as somebody who paid admission and came in to skate before I was a DJ, and listening to the DJ play music and thinking to myself, I really like a lot of the things that this DJ is doing. I don't care for this. I wonder if they did this instead. I wonder if that would work. I wonder if people would dig that. I got my opportunity to try when I got up there on the decks myself. And I mimicked what a lot of the other DJs were doing. But then I would throw these other things in that they weren't doing. Sometimes they'd work, sometimes they wouldn't. But you learn what worked and what didn't work. And you eventually, come into your own that way. Now fast forward a few years, I'm DJing wedding receptions, and at the mall tab I worked at, there were probably between 8 and over 20 different systems that went out every weekend to do all kinds of events, from school stuff to weddings to whatever. At the end of the night, we would all go back to the main office and drop off our checks and our briefcase full of unique things for that event. And those of us who hung out would talk, and one of the big topics of conversation was what we played and worked well. So, somebody might say, "Hey, I played the YMCA, and I know a lot of people don't like that song, but you know what? It works." Or, "I played that new Love Shack song that just came out, and man, that song really works. People really like it." And then we would maybe go out the next weekend and try those tracks that the others were talking about to see if they were working for us. And that's how I started thinking of DJing, where I was trying to find those tracks that would work for a general audience, and I would collect them in my head. And there was a point in time, probably in the mid-90s, for a couple of years, be it a wedding or whatever, I was kind of playing the same. First 2 hours were identical at every event. They were kind of the family hour party starter songs. They were in an order that was effective and worked well. Didn't vary it very much at all. There was no need to, because this stuff was so rock solid for a general audience. It just worked well. As an artist, I fell into a rut with those first 2 hours. Of course, for the rest of the night, I did other things, but just to kick things off, every event kind of sounded the same. But it didn't matter, because I had a different audience in front of me each night. Usually. I had some repeat customers, and they were hearing some of the same things over and over again, but I guess they didn't really seem to mind much. Now, for a few years, recently, I would open the dance floor, the open general dancing at most mobile events with Pharrell's Happy, because it was this song that people either knew and liked, or it's kind of throwback sounding. So even if you didn't know it, it was fun and people would come out to dance to it anyway. I don't know if that's a rut, or I don't know if that's just being smart. I don't know. It's fun to try new things. And I do that. But sometimes you find stuff that just works really well, No, I'm primarily doing club stuff now. And it's one specific club in the city that I worked at when I was in my 20s. And the cool thing about this place is we're not trying to compete with anybody else in town. So we've got R&B places, hip-hop places, EDM places, all of that. But we're not trying to be any of that. We're doing our own thing. The clientele that we get aren't going to the other places downtown. The Halloween party. The people who are at that party probably don't go out every weekend. You know? They go out for Halloween because it's Halloween. They've got costumes on. They're going to go out and get the party on. Are they hearing Cupid Shuffle every weekend like some of you DJs might? No. Am I too cool to play it? No. Do I play it by default? No, I don't. But if I get people asking for it, I play it. Because I want to give people what they want. And I got to remember in my head, they're not going out every weekend. And then you play other things too. It's not like I was just doing this sure thing set of music all night for programming. In fact, I played songs the other night that I'd never played for open dancing before. Never, ever, ever. And the way I played them, when I played them, what I built up to throw them out there in the audience that I had in front of me worked incredibly well. I'll give you an example. I've played the song as a warm-up song or just for background or whatever, but I've never had dancers to the next My Sharona. Ever, ever, ever. But it was just that crowd. I could tell what they were responding to, what they liked. That was the track to play. And I was sitting there thinking, what do I do? I really want to do the neck My Sharona. I could do the Cars. I could do something off the first album, perhaps. Maybe that would work out. Maybe Touch and Go off of Panorama would work. I'm going to get weird on this. Something I've never done, but it's got to be unique and cool. And I went with My Sharona. The place went nuts. And it was so good that at the end of the night, someone came up to me and said, "Thank you so much. And by the way, the Knack My Sharona made my night." No one asks for it. I think everybody there had forgotten about that song, but as soon as I played it, like, oh yeah, that, and I like this. I was playing music, dance stuff from probably the past 30 years. You know, in and out, new, old. Some of the stuff was more on the EDM tip. Some of the stuff was more on the 90s energy, Hadaway, Real McCoy tip. There was some of it that was hip-hop. There was some of it that was top 40. You know, plenty of, Dua Lipa and Lizzo and that kind of stuff too. But I did mix them in a way I'd never mixed them before. A lot of the tracks, I'm playing them, I'm like, I've never tried mixing it at this point. Or instead of doing this stupid 8-bar mix, let me just go crazy and do this 32-bar mix. Because the keys work and the beats work. Let's try it. And I did it on the fly, and it worked incredibly well, something I'd never done before. So, I guess that's my critique on the person's comment about line dance at the club again. Yeah. You give them what they want, okay? It's not like I didn't know what to play, so I played it. And I think that's where it gets kind of negative press from DJs. Or even clients who say, I don't want any line dances in my event. Because you hear them a lot. The reason you hear them a lot is because they're effective. And they're filling dance floors. DJs would stop playing these songs if no one would dance to them. People would stop asking for them if they didn't want to hear them. So I don't think there's anything wrong with playing requests. I do find a problem with somebody who wants to come up to the booth 17 times in a night and try to program the evening and treat me like their Spotify playlist. I take issue with that. Let me know what you like and let me kind of go from there and build on it. Let me create the vibe. This is not your job. Ask for stuff, but a couple requests are fine. But when you keep coming up repetitive, it drives me nuts. I hate it. I regress. If you don't know what to do and you play the standards, like I've done before, I had the set and I knew it would work and I just played it, that's okay too, as long as you're not playing in front of the same audience every night. You're not really growing as an artist when you do that, like I mentioned before, but it's effective. It's always fun to try things, though. It's always fun to do them in a new way, mix them in a new way. I don't beat mix my entire evenings. I've never beat mixed an entire evening, I don't think. In my entire DJ career, I don't think I've ever done it. I do sets beat mixed. And I also don't just beat mix when I do those sets. I do a variety of transitions. Sometimes I do a couple bars, sometimes I slam it, sometimes I run these super long mashups, sometimes I do it quick, sometimes I let stuff go long. I don't want to be predictable, okay? I've heard DJs who think they're great, but they're really just predictable. And they're trying to impress somebody, maybe me, I don't know. And all I'm hearing is exactly what I expect to hear from them. When I DJ, I don't want anyone to predict what I'm going to do next. I want it to sound really interesting. I want it to be mixed really interesting. Ideally, I'd like the songs to be interesting. Sometimes you can't help but to play just the standards, but I don't know. We all do this differently. And it's important to remember that as artists, we're not always going to be doing the same thing the next guy does. In fact, it's cooler when you do things in your own way. And you're doing things in your own way, in a way no one else is doing them. It makes you unique. It gives your audience a unique experience, as long as it's also effective. And then that's kind of the double-edged sword. Unique and effective. They aren't always mutually exclusive. If you've got to just play the 30-song list that's just going to work at any event that you could possibly do, fine, do it. Maybe that's just what you do. Last year when I was doing a lot of school dances, I had this folder, and I don't usually create folders or crates, but I did have one for school dances because it was all kind of the same thing, and it was 3 hours, and it had to be okay with the school that I played these songs. Like, I couldn't play WAP and stuff, but I had to play these other songs, and what worked, what didn't work. Yeah, I had a cheat folder, and every school, they pretty much got the same 30 songs for the year. But I did a lot of schools, and I hated to do it that way, but my hands were tied. But yeah, when I'm doing club stuff or I'm doing wedding stuff or whatever, I keep in mind what works, but I also think about what might also work, especially when a request comes in. I mean, that's the coolest if I can play off of that request. I did an hour and 20-minute set a couple weeks ago off of a single request. It was a direction I wasn't planning on going, but I got the request, and I'm like, I got you. You're going to dig this. And I just started to go, and I just unloaded on them. And it was fun, and it was a lot of energy, and it went over incredibly well with everybody. They really liked it, but I didn't consider it. The request inspired it. Same thing happened last night. I was playing off requests, if you like this, you're going to love this. You didn't ask for it. You didn't think about asking for it. I think you're going to dig it. People heard things that they'd never heard before. People heard things that they knew and forgot about. And of course, they heard the things that they expected to hear when they asked for them too. So, I don't know. There's more than one way to do this. And we're not all alike. And if we were, we'd be pretty boring. And one DJ wouldn't be any more interesting than the next. So, I don't know if this video makes any sense to you, but some stuff I wanted to get out. We'll see you soon. More videos to come. Take care of yourselves. I appreciate you guys tuning in so much. Practice and enjoy.